Hello, thank you for tuning in to the Katy Sissine Show, addressing the indoctrination of the nation. I'm your host, Katy Sissine. Now, we left off yesterday's episode, the Wednesday episode, discussing the Women's March, but more so discussing George Soros and the top-down organizations that he's involved in. He's been involved in the Trump protests, the anti-Trump protests with the slogan, "Not my president." He's been involved in Black Lives Matter. He has also most recently been involved in the Women's March. And they were about the inclusion of marginalized people in the United States, the inclusion of all minorities. But the reality of the march was it was more like an anti-Trump parade. And it was over the top. It incited fear and violence and outrage in the American people. Madonna even said that she had thoughts about blowing up the White House. She cussed repeatedly. They had to cut off her speech live on air, or at least try to. The major networks, shooting the live footage. Of course, Fox, CNN, etc. Some of those networks had to cut her off. And also, Ashley Judd had a most memorable speech. She was very, very, very hostile when she gave her speech. And we're going to look at a clip of that right now.
To America, Electoral College sanctioned hate speech contaminating this national anthem. I'm not as nasty as Confederate flags being tattooed across my city. Maybe the South actually is gonna rise again. Maybe for some, it never really fell. Blacks are still in shackles and graves just for being black. Slavery has been reinterpreted as the prison system in front of people who see melanin as animal skin. I am not as nasty as a swastika painted on a pride flag. And I didn't know devils could be resurrected, but I feel Hitler in these streets. A mustache traded for a toupee. Nazis renamed the cabinet electroconversion therapy, the new gas chambers, shaming the gay out of America, turning rainbows into suicide notes. I am not as nasty as racism, fraud, conflict of interest, homophobia, sexual assault, transphobia, white supremacy, misogyny, ignorance, white privilege.
The footage. Hello, welcome back to the Katy Sissine Show. I'm your host, Katy Sissine, addressing the indoctrination of the American nation. We just got back from seeing that video, if you're just tuning in with us, of Ashley Judd and her very hateful and hostile speech at the Women's March, the day after the inauguration. Wow. So it really looked, it was very melodramatic to me. It was very over the top. It looked very scripted. She compared Trump to Hitler. She said his mustache, it's a mustache traded for a toupee, referring to Trump's hair that I believe is actually real. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I guess I'd have to look into that. Anyway, she overtly calls Trump a misogynist, and she overtly calls him a racist. She said that, he condemns the LGBTQ community essentially and is racist against the black community. She insinuates all of this. Now, in the speech, I didn't hear her say Trump, but we all know who she was referring to, especially with that smart aleck toupee reference. And all in all, as Trump is the president of the United States, it was a disrespectful march and it was a disrespectful speech on Ashley Judd's part. And let's not even get into Madonna and her speech where she incited violence and expressed her thoughts of wanting to blow up the White House. Absolutely crazy in my opinion. Now, let's bear in mind that this Women's March is supposed to be about women losing their rights and the inclusion of all minorities. But all they really did at the protest was incite anger and fear in the American people who felt like they were a part of something bigger than themselves by participating in this march. Now, all that really happened was a lot of hateful remarks were made, and there was a lot of teaming up on Mr. President Trump. And let's bear in mind, he is the president, he is the commander-in-chief that we, the American people, should rightfully respect. He's earned his place. He was mocked by Obama severely at the whatchamacallit about a year ago to this day. One of the big dinners where Trump attended, and Obama made fun of him for calling him out for his birth certificate or lack thereof on the Bill O'Reilly show. And he just completely berated Trump in front of the entire audience. And that was that moment where Trump decided a year ago from basically Inauguration Day that he would run for president and prove Obama and the whole establishment wrong. Trump is a smart man. He's a businessman. He's got a cabinet full of billionaire businessman colleagues to prove it. And I'm hoping great things, as I am an American, and I also personally believe in this guy. I do believe in our president, and I hope that more Americans get on board because it's the best thing for you. It really is. So let's get back to Soros and open borders, because as you know, we started talking about in the last episode, as you may or may not know, we started talking about George Soros, and then we moved on to the organizations that he's involved with, and how he was heavily tied to the Women's March and affiliated with over 50 groups that participated in the Women's March and were represented in the Women's March. So Soros and open borders is the recipe for a dangerous democracy. Nearly every country is a democracy. There are 167 of 195 existing countries that call themselves democracies. Now, you and I know that those 167 countries are not really all democracies, but yet they're called democracies. Now, George Soros is all about democracy. And we hear about democracy all the time in the United States and the fight for democracy. Now, what we forget as a people, and I've even called the U.S. a democracy because that's how it's been operating under the Obama administration, but what we forget as the people is that it's actually a republic. And what it means to be a republic is that the minority has inalienable rights that cannot be taken away from the majority. So tell me why there was the Women's March. When Trump stands for the Constitution, when Trump stands for the republic that protects minority rights, and Obama and the left essentially does not, why would they ever march against Trump? It absolutely makes no sense whatsoever. And I don't want to degrade the women that were involved in this movement, but they are evidently uninformed, in my opinion. Evidently, they don't understand that this country is a republic and that Trump upholds that it is a republic, which means that he upholds minorities' rights. That's what that means, people. That's the president that we have in office. The guy that wants to make sure that this country maintains its status of being a republic. And everyone out there needs to, if you get one thing from this episode today, just please understand that Trump is on the minority side. Now, Obama portrayed himself to be on the minority side, but as we can see, prior to the Obama administration, there was less disparity between the people before Obama was in office, not only economically, but socially, than after he left with a strangely high approval rating for reasons that I've explained last week, which you can look into. An approval rating that Obama did not earn. And I supported Obama the first term. I believed in the change, but I gave him a chance and he proved himself to be unproductive, to say the least. So, democracy versus republic. Minorities are unsafe in a democracy. Essentially, minorities are not protected in a democracy from the majority, which means they can be overtaken by the elite. In a republic, this cannot and will not happen because the minorities reserve their inalienable rights, which we are so very nicely given in the Bill of Rights. And you and I both know, or we all know, that Obama wanted to take away our right to bear arms, which is the number 2 inalienable right that we have as Americans. Number one, freedom of expression and religion. Anyway, democracy index. There is a democracy index. So you may wonder, how do 167 countries qualify to be democracies? Well, they qualify because there's a democracy index, and it orders democracies from, it has them as like full democracies, and that includes countries like Norway, and then it has, mid-level democracies, and I'm not giving you the official names. It has, corrupt democracies, but they still consider them democracies. So even if it's a very corrupt country, it can still be considered a democracy by the democracy index, and that's how these countries get away with being called democracies. Smugglers were drug offenders with experience. Smugglers trained people to fight. Where's that going? Okay. Open borders, sacrifice sovereignty for the greater good. The EU gave hope for open borders, established in 93, now nearly 30 member states. So moving on from the smugglers and drug offenders with experience. Oh, that was for, we will talk about that with the Clinton scandals. That related to the Clinton scandals. That we'll go over in a few moments here. So, open borders sacrifices sovereignty for the greater good. That's basically what it does, because there is a religious war going on right now due to ISIS and all the groups that have spurred from Al-Qaeda and all the terrorist groups that have spurred in relatively recent years. The EU gave hope for open borders, but with the state of the religious war that it's in now, it's just not feasible. Anyway, we're going to break for commercials, and we'll be right back with you. Again, you're listening to the Katy Sissine Show. Please follow me on Twitter at KatyFYNTV and stay posted with the news on FYN.
It's a new year, new you at Schottenkirk Ford Jasper. Ring in the new year with huge deals on a brand new Ford. Right now, get exceptional offers like 0% financing plus a $1,500 factory rebate on a new 2017 Ford F-150 XLT. Or get 0% financing plus a $1,000 factory rebate on a new 2017 Ford Explorer. Make your resolution a reality during the New Year, New You sales event at Schottenkirk Ford Jasper, home of the Schottenkirk Customer Guarantee. Visit us online at SchottenkirkFordJasper.com.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
El Rey in Ellijay.
El Rey Mexican Restaurant.
Family owned and operated, and a local favorite for families, parties, and meetings.
Great prices.
Friendly service and delicious Mexican cuisine.
Patio dining available.
Come sing in Carlos's Cantina every Friday 9 to 1.
Eat in or take away.
Same location for 14 years. Open 7 days at the corner of Maddox Drive and 515. North Georgia's favorite Mexican cuisine. El Rey in Ellijay.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
Hello, welcome back to the Katy Sissine Show. And today we are talking about the conspiracies of the Clintons. And as we know, there have been many notable scandals that the Clintons have partaken in, or have, I guess partaken is the correct word, grammar-wise. And what we're gonna start out with is the Iran-Contra Scandal, also known as the Iran-Gate and the Contra-Gate at Mena. And Mena is a city in Arkansas, and it's also the name of an airport in Mena, Arkansas. Now, how does this tie into the Clintons? Because we all associate, in general, the American public associates the Iran-Contra Scandal with Reagan. This was Reagan's fail. This was Reagan's corruption. So what are the Contras? First of all, let's just take a dive into this and explain everything that we need to know. The Contras in this context are the rebel forces, the pro-democracy freedom fighters of a guerrilla warfare group in Nicaragua who are opposed to the communist Marxist Sandinista government in the 80s. So of course this took place during the Reagan administration. But the Clintons were very much involved, as Mena is in Arkansas, and at that time of the Iran-Contra Scandal, who was the governor of Arkansas? And who was the first lady of the governor of Arkansas? Well, none other than the woman who is right behind me, Miss Hillary Rodham Clinton. So there she is. Now, what happened in the Iran-Contra Scandal? What spurred this? So Congress initially cut funding for Nicaraguan resistance in 1984. Reagan was president. As I said, Clinton was governor of Arkansas, and everyone was starting to get paid under the table in order to creatively fund the resistance. So officially, they stopped funding it. But under the table, there were still some things going on. Now, let's talk about Joe Fernandez, CIA chief in Costa Rica. Joe Fernandez contacts the FDN, the Nicaraguan Democratic Force. He advises the FDN, and this is where it gets illegal, to seek alternative funds because Congress had cut funds in '84. So Mr. Fernandez in Costa Rica, he said that they need to seek alternative funds for their guerrilla warfare against the communist regime. So what happened to supplement them? Well, what happened was cocaine was shipped to America, and the mafia distributed the drugs throughout America, and weapons and trained Contras were sent to Central America. So basically, at the Mena airport in Mena, Arkansas, while they were under the governance of Clinton, served as a hub to traffic in drugs, to traffic in cocaine from Central South America into the United States that would be distributed by the mafia. And who got paid under the table by the mafia? Well, everyone who was involved on the political side, the Clintons, etc. We know the Clintons got paid, and that's a fact. So anyway, we got a photo of Mena on the map here. We'll just show that for everyone to see. Mena, as I said, is an airport in Mena, Arkansas. It's in rural Arkansas. It's away from the public eye. It served, as I said, as a base to train the Contras, a place of gun production, and it serves as a place where cocaine was smuggled in. As I said, it was the hub, and Contras and weapons were, of course, smuggled out. So the weapons were sold to Iran. Now, that's how Iran ties in, because it's the Iran-Contra Scandal. So we have the weapons that were sent to Iran. It gets more complicated, so stay tuned. Now, the C-30 and other military cargo planes were used to transport goods, just in case you're wondering what kind of planes they used to get this stuff across. Obviously these guys weren't using commercial airlines to do this stuff. So this war on drugs money, essentially, this was money acquired from the war on drugs because cocaine was illegal, but yet the government was transporting cocaine into the nation and essentially getting paid for it, and also raising the rates of incarcerations due to it. So it was very, very corrupt. I mean, it's as if the government essentially was the mafia. I mean, they were working with them. So a man is whatever room he is in. And if he is in a room with the mafia, he is the mafia. Essentially, they were the mafia. The government in question in this situation was as criminal as the mafia. So this war on drugs money from the cocaine, it funded guerrilla warfare in Nicaragua for the Contra forces. It flooded the U.S. with cocaine, and more Americans in turn turned to drug offenders. Now, obviously, this turns into money earned by the government from offenders' legal fees, from probation, attorneys, and fines, and incarcerations increase, which means that we can more so control the free population in the United States, which is scary. So the news, what happened in the news? Well, the news reported locally in Arkansas was all over the case because local reporters and the local forces, they knew something was up. They knew something was going on. So they investigated. And later, it became popular in national news much later. So I want to describe this diamond of trade that was going on so we can all get a clear understanding of how everything was being transported. The cocaine shipment from Nicaragua to the U.S. is not reported here. So the starting point is the origin of the operations is a CIA. So if you look at the left side, your left-hand side where it says U.S. Intelligence Agency, that's our starting point. So simultaneously, from the starting point, money, new equipment, and arms were secretly sent to the Contras in Nicaragua. Then we have the Contras in Nicaragua at the bottom in the orange. And then at the same time, surplus and excess U.S. weapons were sent from the United States to Israel. So this is the complex part I was trying to explain. The surplus and excess U.S. weapons were sent from the United States to Israel, not directly to Iran. And then Israel brokered the arms shipment to Iran for U.S. dollars. Then meanwhile, Israel and Iran are political enemies. So anyway, the weapons go from Israel to Iran so that it's not traced directly from the U.S. into Iran. And Iran is also a political enemy of the United States. And then Iran purchased these arms at high prices, etc., etc. Huge scandal to raise money and whatever that they were trying to do at the time. Anyway, let's move on from this. So this tarnished Bill Clinton's image. When he started to run for president, this really came back to bite him. And the media protected his image, though, and notably through Time magazine, etc. And this just goes to show the corruption of media and government relations. We have to take into account that, of course, these sources of media were paid off to portray Bill Clinton as innocent. And, you know, that's not all. We're moving on from the Iran-Contra Scandal now to the WhiteWater Development Corporation, known as the WhiteWater Controversy and WhiteWater Scandal. Essentially, what was this? This was a real estate scam that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were partnered up with two others. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were partnered with Susan McDougal and Jim McDougal. And in this real estate scam, it was a failed business of the 70s and 80s where they bought resort property and homes and they resold them. They aimed their sales at an older population with money who were well established, and they conned them. If any of their tenants missed any of their payments, well, not their tenants, but any of the people that were leasing their property or homes from them, if any of them missed one payment, then they lost total equity to their home/property, which means that they became renters. And so their property, if they had missed only one payment, would be turned over, the ownership would be turned over to the Clintons and the McDougals that were partnered with the Clintons. Again, these were wealthy retired Americans. The last thing they suspected was being conned, especially by well-known people. So there's a photo about Hillary Clinton in Time magazine, which I'd like to show for you here. This came out after the WhiteWater scandal, this real estate scam, because this really tarnished her image. It made her look terrible because she essentially got put on trial for the first time ever, and you know, it was heavily investigated into the 90s, and it just made her look really bad because everyone kind of knew she was lying. The investigation of real estate investments of the Clintons and the McDougals took place in the 90s, and there were 15 people convicted, but both Clintons, Hillary and Bill, were completely safe. Meanwhile, Clinton's successor as governor of Arkansas, Jim Guy Tucker, was removed from office on 3 counts of fraud, while Clinton was in the White House, about to be there. And both Jim and Susan McDougal were found guilty on counts of fraud and felonies. Anyway, that's all the time we've got left for today. We are going to continue with Clinton scandals on tomorrow's episode, so stay tuned in. Follow me on Twitter at KatyFYNTV and email me at katy@fetchyournews.com. Thank you. I hope to see you again.